Wayne, you actually wrote a piece yesterday about Steve Cooper's future at Forest. Can you fill us in, please, on the latest news on that?
Yeah, I mean, this was before the 5-0 in terms of Cooper expects to be sacked soon by Nottingham Forest. Whispers he's hearing at the club is that they're approaching other managers to replace him. One of those targets is Jolan Lopetegui, the former Wolves manager, who isn't completely convinced about taking the Forest role, but Cooper has told his inner circle that he expects to be sacked soon, and that was even before yesterday's 5-0 thrashing. It's quite interesting that Marinakis, the owner, he was there and he was absolutely raging by all accounts, and his reaction in the second half told quite the story to kind of observers who were watching him in the director's box. So I would expect Steve Cooper to leave Nottingham Forest soon, but I would not be surprised if he ends up at another Premier League club and very possibly one in London as well, from what I'm hearing.
Interestingly, actually talking of Marinakis, Wayne, I saw a photo on Twitter that a fan had actually found Marinakis's badge and his ID to get into the ground in someone's bush outside the Fulham ground. So obviously he must have stormed out in a rage and thrown it, which was quite interesting, really, to find out. Paul, the one thing I think that is worth mentioning, though, and actually, I think huge credit must go to those fans staying, not only until the end, but to clap off Steve Cooper. It really seems they have such a tight relationship, and actually quite a few Forest fans sound like they actually might want him to stay.
I think that's the majority of the Forest fans. I was at Forest game against Everton this weekend, and they were poor. They really struggled against an average Everton side, let's say, who stuck to a game plan. Forest have won 1 in 10. The thing that kept them in the Premier League last year was their home form at the City Ground. But you talk about the manager, the bond between the manager and supporters. I've never seen it before. He's taken that club from the Championship on a budget what they have, and he's taken that club into a Premier League. So many clubs in the Championship are busted flushes, if you like, ex-Premier League teams who haven't managed to get out again. You look at that Championship, it's full of ex-Premier League teams who have hit the heights but haven't managed to get back there. The Forest fans and Steve Cooper have this unique relationship because he is Mr. Nottingham Forest. He gets the club, they get him, and they will support him whatever he does. The owner is another issue. I mean, the problem that they've got now, let's be realistic. Forest came up last year. It was their first season in the Premier League last year. What's success for Forest this year? From an outsider's point of view, staying in the Premier League again, because the second season is the hardest one. Yes, I get the amount of money they've spent, but Steve Cooper's had to do that with a new team every single season. Every single season he's bought, he's rebuilt, but he's got all these new players again this year, some of which I suspect he didn't want, but he was being given, and he's done it again with the side that he's got. I mean, they're 6 points above the bottom 4. They're not going to get relegated this year. There's 3-4 worse than them, but they won't because they've got a squad good enough to do it. But the problem that Steve Cooper has got is with the owners, he's become a victim of his own success. And with success comes expectation. And for me, realistic expectation, stay in the Premier League again. But
that's not how Marinakis looks at it, though. He's expecting a top 10 finish this season. And his view is they've spent 250 million in the last 3 transfer windows, and they should be in the other half of the table, which basically means Steve Cooper's dead man walking. He knows he's a dead man walking. I don't think he's particularly down about it because he knows he has interest from other clubs, and I'd very much expect him to be a manager of a different club within months, if not weeks.
Paul, when you, as a former player, when the fans have a really close relationship with a manager, how does that affect you knowing they might potentially be sacked? Is there any feelings of, I think I would say, of disappointment knowing that actually Steve Cooper could be gone in the next week, say?
I think the dressing rooms are always split because it's easy for a manager to keep players happy, 11 of them, because he picks them every week. You're never going to have a harmonious 23-man squad. Some people will not like his training methods. Some people will not like him personally. There's always going to be 2 or 3. But I think from what you hear, listen, I don't know Steve Cooper, but from what I see, you warm to him. He's a likable guy. He comes across really well. He's honest in his press, and he comes across in an honest type of way. And from a player's point of view, the only thing you want from a manager is honesty. I've played for so many managers that struggle to be honest with you. A manager's job is very, very difficult. If they're not going to play you, at least be honest with you and tell you why they're not going to play you. Tell you why. Be honest, be open, be honest. A lot of managers aren't honest, but he strikes me as one that is. And he's got the club at heart. He doesn't set out. He's got no ulterior motives. There's no hidden agendas. And he looks like a manager that I would have liked to have played for. And I can imagine that his dressing room is pretty harmonious. I mean, after the game last night, you saw him, he put his hands up and he's like, look, this is on me. It's all on me. And still to this point, his players have let him down. I mean, they lost 3-2 against Brighton. They lost 3-2 against West Ham. They lost 1-0 against Everton. They had 5 put past them against Fulham. And he's still there defending his players.
Says a lot about him as a character, really. I mean, You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.